Hey there YouTube, this is Daniel back with you for another quick tutorial. Today we're going to do VLSM subnetting or variable length subnet mask and the CIDR notation. Basically what we're going to do is take a major network. Let's use the network 192.168.0.0 and it's going to be a class C subnet of 255.255.255.0. And the CIDR notation of that would be, since there's only 24 bits out of the 32-bit IP address being used, that would be a /24 CIDR notation. So basically what the VLSM is going to do is take this major network and we can actually break it into smaller networks. So we're going to have a total of 254 available IP address to us through the major network, and we're going to take these IP addresses, split them up, so we can try to get quite a few smaller networks and not have as many IP addresses wasted. So we're going to go through and let's do group A, B, C, D, E, and F. As A, let's go with 100. B will have 30. 25 for C, and then 10 for D, and 5 for E, and 2 for F. Actually, I take back. Let's probably change that to 3. That way I don't confuse myself on that one, because with there only being 2 IP addresses, you can end up messing up whether or not you can get 2 actual IP addresses for 2 devices, or 1 for the gateway and 1 for a device. So let's change that to 3, because actually I just confused myself. So let's take our first large network here, and what I always do is I always start with the largest subnet and work my way down to the smallest. It seems like this always works out better this way. So we're going to start with Group A, which is 100 hosts. So we need to find out what subnet these 100 hosts fit into the best without having excessive waste of IP addresses. So with this, we're going to need to remember our powers of 2. If you don't remember the powers of 2, you might want to go back to the other video that I created, converting IP address to binary. That will help you with your powers of 2. So for reference, I am going to lay down the powers of 2 here: 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, and so on. Alright, so we have this down, and what I also like to do when I'm doing VLSM is I kind of make another little chart here with the powers of 2, and then I go back and I can figure out what subnet these will all fit into. With 128 hosts, it'd be in a 128 subnet. So then from there, you actually take 128 plus the 64, gives you 192. 192 plus the 32 is 224. 224 plus 16 is 240. 240 plus 8, 248. 248 plus 4 is 252. 254, and then lastly 255. These are all going to be your subnets that you have in the Class C. And then as you look to the left, you can see this is how many hosts will actually fit into each one of these subnets. Now keep in mind the 128, 64, 32, 60, and so on. These are actual full range IP addresses that does not include your default gateway or your broadcast. So you actually will lose 2 usable IP addresses on this. So if you have 128, you're actually only going to get 126 usable IP addresses. So with the major network, we're going to do 192.168.0.0 as a starting IP address, and since we have 100 IP addresses, it will fit into the 128 network. And since that is 25 bits used out of the subnet, it will be /25. Our usable range, since there's 126 usable IP addresses, be 192.168.0.1 to 192.168.0.126. That gives a gateway 192.168.0.1 and a broadcast of 192.168.0.127. Now remember that your broadcast will always be an odd number, and your beginning network address will always be an even number. So if you ever run across that you have an even number broadcast address or an odd number network address, go back and do your math on it, because somewhere you got something messed up. So let's go on to the second group. It's going to be 30 hosts that we're going to have in this group. So that is going to start, since it's an even number, it will be 192.168.0.128. And we need 30 hosts. So we're going to look at our chart, and we know that the closest thing, it would be 32. 16 wouldn't be enough. 32 would be actually perfect. 32 minus your gateway and broadcast will give you 30 IP addresses. So we're going to use the 224 subnet. And the CIDR notation for that, if you look at the chart, 128/25, 64 is 26, then 27 would be for 224. And that gives us usable range of 192.168.0.129. And you do the math of 30 IP addresses on that. Put it at 158, and that'll give us a gateway address of .129, and that'll put our broadcast address at .159. Alright, so we have our second group knocked out. Let's see how this is flowing along now. If you have everything set right, they just kind of all fall into place one right after each other as you go down the list. So we're going to 25 hosts now. So it's going to start with network address of 192.168.0.160. And the subnet on that is 255.255.255. It's actually going to be 224 as well, because we can only go up to the 224 subnet to get 30 IP addresses, since 16 isn't enough. So again, that'll be a /27, which should give us usable IP address of .161 to be 190, and then that'll put our gateway at .161, and that should put our broadcast at 191. Alright, let's move on to the next group. It's going to be 10 hosts. So our group is 192.168.0.192, and we need to go up to, looks like 16 hosts, since 8 isn't going to be enough, so that'll put us in a .240. And the CIDR notation on that, count down the list, 25, 26, 27, be /28. And that gives usable range of IP addresses going 192.168.0.193 to 192.168.0.206. That gives a gateway of .193, and the broadcast address will be .207. move on to the next group of 5 hosts. So our subnet will be 192.168.0.208, and only 5 IP addresses in this one, so we will have to go up to, looks like 248. And that will be a /29 CIDR notation. Be a usable range of 192.168.0.209. It's only going to go up to 192.168.0.214. Give us a gateway address of .209, and the broadcast address will be 192.168.0.215. Alright, now 3 hosts. This is going to be fairly simple. 192.168.0.216 will be our beginning subnet, since the broadcast of the 5 hosts was 215. And here, that will be only 3 hosts. So we're going to have to go up to 248 again, since if we did 4, take 2 away, but it'll only leave us with 2 available IP addresses. So it would be a /29 CIDR notation, as the other subnet was. That gives us a usable range of 192.168.0.217 to 192.168.0.222. That will give us a gateway address of 192.168.0.217, and the broadcast address will be 192.168.0.223. I was looking at the gateway address instead of the IP address. Sorry about that. Alright, so there you go. There are all of your groups perfectly subnetted out with limited waste of IP addresses, and if you have any other networks, you'll be able to add those in and still have room for more. Reason I use the CIDR notation is actually it's just nice shorthand stuff, having to type out 255, 255, 255, whatever. Just doing a /25 or /24 is a lot quicker. It's actually surprising how many guys, especially in ISPs, when you call like the help desk and you try to give them a static IP address with a subnet, you just say, oh, it's a /30. They actually don't know what you're talking about. It's coming from an ISP standpoint, that's something that they should know. So maybe if there's any of them out there, that this might teach them a little bit about the CIDR notation. So hopefully you enjoyed the video.